Hi everyone, thanks for checking out this video. So this is going to be a little bit different than most of my other videos. So this isn't going to be a technical tutorial about like how to write a program or how to simulate some kind of model or something. This is actually going to be a video with some mental health advice for PhD students, or really could apply to like master's students too, or like anyone working on research who's stressed out about it. I'm now in the 5th year of my PhD program, so I've been doing this for a while, and compared to other like life experiences I've had, so in like other stuff I've done in my life, like I've been in the military before, I've had various kind of like customer service type jobs before, all those things like pretty stressful. I remember being stressed out in like undergrad and stuff too, so I have some like pretty good points of comparison. And as far as things go, I have to say that like being a PhD student is definitely up there and among the like most stressful things I've ever done in terms of like how mentally taxing it is. I think part of it is that when you're working on like research, like you're just thinking about it all the time, and you don't really have any like guilt-free time off. It's just kind of like on your mind like all the time. It can be easy to get like pretty stressed out about it. But yeah, I've been doing this for like more than 4 years now, starting my 5th year this semester. And I'm at the point now where I think I actually have some advice that I could share that could be like helpful to other people who are in a similar position and like stressed out about it. So also I'm calling this non-platitude mental health advice because a lot of mental health tips are just kind of things like, oh, just like be yourself, like believe in yourself, just keep going, don't give up, like blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. It's just like platitudes or whatever. But I'm gonna try to, in this video, like my goal is to share like specific things that I think are like not just platitudes, but like specific things that I've actually found to be helpful and are like non-obvious like tips that I think could be useful to people. Maybe make this font a little bit bigger. But yeah, so the first one, I'm starting off with something like kind of controversial, but the first one, I'm gonna say, for some people this might be the most important mental health tip, but it's just gonna be like, it's okay to quit if it's so bad that you're like really miserable and really not enjoying it. It's okay to like quit your grad school program if it's like really making you miserable. So I'm just gonna say like, it's okay to quit if it's really making you miserable. So yeah, this is like a controversial one because people always think of like perseverance as being like always a positive virtue, but I think in terms of like grad school and like a PhD program and stuff like that, persevering through stress and like mental hardship, it can be a good like positive virtue if you're persevering towards a goal that will be worth it in the end. But if you're like persevering through like stress and like mental hardship and it's making you miserable to the point that it's like really not worth it to keep doing this thing that's making you miserable, like it might just not be worth it to continue on in the program. You know what I mean? I think for some people it could actually be the right decision to quit and do something else that will make them happier if it's really just not for them and it's just making them miserable and it's just not worth it to keep going. I think in terms of like a PhD program, ultimately like you should be enjoying your research even like regardless of how stressful it is. Like if you're not ultimately enjoying what you're doing, I don't think it necessarily makes sense to keep doing it. I don't think any PhD students are really doing it for the money, because you could probably be getting paid more to be like just working a regular job. Like probably a regular job just at a company probably would be less stressful, easier, pay more, you'd have more free time. So yeah, if the PhD is like really making you stressed out and miserable, yeah, I don't think anyone's doing it for the money. So if you're not ultimately enjoying it, I don't know if it makes sense to keep doing it. So this would be my first piece of advice, is just like, if it's like really making you miserable and it's not ultimately something that you enjoy, and your research isn't ultimately something that you're passionate about that like makes it worth all the stress, I don't think it's always such a terrible idea to just quit and do something that will make you happier. You know what I mean? If you start doing something and it turns out to be like the wrong thing for you and it's just like not making you happy, I don't think there's anything wrong with just quitting and doing something that like actually will make you happy. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's my first like piece of advice. Yeah, second piece of advice, kind of more of a cliche, something less controversial. But for the second piece of advice, I'm gonna say try to have a normal sleep schedule. This is one that sounds like a platitude. I know I said no platitudes. This one kind of sounds like a platitude or like a cliche or something. And I realized that, but based on the impact this has had, like, on myself and my own mental health, I'm going to include this one anyway. For me, this was like something that I encountered during the COVID pandemic. So there was a period of time during the COVID pandemic when I was like working from home and kind of like making my own schedule. And the result of this was that my sleep schedule got like really screwed up, really bad. And I was basically nocturnal for a little bit, probably like several months, maybe like 6 months. But yeah, for a long time during the pandemic, yeah, my sleep schedule like totally screwed up. Got to be totally nocturnal. I was just staying up all night, like working all night, just like in my apartment, like just writing and debugging code like until like 5 or 6 a.m. And then I'd go to sleep and then like sleep until like noon or something, and then kind of like wake up and just do it again. And yeah, I was finding like during that time I was not feeling good mentally, and I was just finding that I was like stressed and just feeling like just sad all the time and just not really feeling good like mental health wise. And then I purposely reset my sleep schedule so that it would be like back to normal. But yeah, I know this one's kind of like a cliche or whatever, but for me, this had like such a big impact on my like mental health that I do want to include it. When I like reset my sleep schedule, I actually felt like a lot better like mentally, and I just felt like just way better. Like, sorry for the pun, but it was like a night and day difference, like how I felt. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was like, yeah, just felt like way better mentally after like getting on like a healthy sleep schedule. Yeah, so the third tip, this is going to be another like one, not super controversial, but I'm going to say like do some kind of physical activity. This could be like going to the gym or something, or playing a sport, or it could be something even as small as like going for a walk. Just any kind of like physical activity to just get out of your apartment or get out of like your lab or whatever, and just like do something like somewhat physical. For me, I like to go to the gym a couple times a week. I like to go and just like do some cardio or like lift weights or something. I find that's a good way to like kind of blow off some steam, just like relax. It might seem like a chore when you start doing it at first, but when you kind of get in the habit of it, it becomes actually like pretty enjoyable. So yeah, I think going to the gym can be like a good way to blow off some steam. But yeah, like I said, even just going for a walk, going for a run, like playing a sport, all these things, it's like part of it is just keeping yourself like physically healthy, and part of it is it'll be something that you can do for some amount of time when you won't be thinking about your research. So if you're just doing some kind of like physically difficult activity, that'll be some amount of time where your mind is on something else besides whatever research is stressing you out. So yeah, that's what I'm going to say for that one. The fourth one, and this, for me, this might actually be the most important one, is I'm just going to say for this one, like books, movies, podcasts, etc., to get yourself excited again about your research. So what I mean by this is that I'm not talking here about like textbooks or like educational documentaries. I mean, maybe those could work too, but what I'm talking about here is like stuff to remind you of like why you got into your research topic and to kind of get you excited about it again. So whenever I find myself losing motivation, I'll look for something along these lines. And again, I'm not talking about something like overly educational where it feels like work to be doing it. I'm talking about something that you, like a book you read or a movie you watch, where you just go like, oh man, like this is just like so cool, and you just feel motivated again, and you remember like why you got like so into your research topic to begin with. So I'll just tell you guys a couple ones that kind of do the trick for me. So I'm actually listening to like a really good audiobook now that I'll recommend to you guys. But yeah, it's this book here. It's called The Innovators. So this is just like one book I'm like listening to the audiobook right now. It's a book about the invention of like modern computers but it goes through a bunch of different people who all came up with some kind of like really like clever idea. And just listening to this audiobook, I've just been like so impressed by like the cleverness of these like scientists and engineers that even though it's not exactly related to the research I'm doing, I still feel like so inspired by just these stories of like such clever innovations that it just gets me excited again to be working on like scientific research. Another good movie that I like rewatch a lot when I want to get like motivated and inspired. It's called First Man. Really good movie about the Apollo moon landing. Yeah, super cool movie. And it's just, again, like what I find inspiring is like reading books and watching movies about like amazing accomplishments in science and engineering that like actually happened. So whenever I like rewatch this movie, I'm just so blown away by like the sheer like coolness of it that even though my research isn't like aerospace engineering or something, I'm doing like cell biology research. But I'm still so impressed by like the scientific achievements of the human race that I'm just like, oh man, like this is just so cool. And I really feel inspired to like dive back into my research whenever I like rewatch this movie. So again, this for you guys, it might be something different. I mean, I'm just throwing out a couple recommendations here, but and then like also, I think some podcasts are good for this too. So one in particular is the Lex Friedman podcast. Yeah, so this is a good podcast. He interviews a lot of different people, but a lot of them are like science and like research and like computer programming topics. A couple of the recent ones, like there's one that came out today actually. This researcher who is working on like AI and self-driving cars and stuff. I'm going to listen to that probably tonight, and I'm already like pretty excited about it. But yeah, a lot of cool guests. Again, it's somewhat educational, but it's not so educational that it feels like a chore. It's more of just something where you listen to it and it just gets you excited again about like the cool like advances in like science and computing that are going on. That it's just like inspirational to hear about like cool research being done, and at least for me, it makes me excited again about my own research. So that's just kind of my last tip for you guys is that if you find yourself losing motivation, try to look for like books and movies and like podcasts and stuff that like get you excited again. And so for me, that's like the last tip of how I try to if I feel myself losing motivation, I just try to remind myself of like how cool it is and like how lucky I am to be able to basically get to like work on cool research like for my job. Okay, yes, that's all I have for you guys for this video. Just a couple mental health tips for like dealing with stress and stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and see you next time.